Okay. Okay, that's better. Yeah, our heads are the same size now. Excellent. Just don't move.
I'm just admiring my teeth.
All right.
Okay.
We are live. Excellent.
Yay.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Hello from the middle of Missouri.
Okay, cool. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Pam. This is episode 3 of Board Game Broadscast. I'm joined by my awesome co-host, Kathleen Mercury.
Hi, Pam. Hi, America. Hi, Canada. Hi, everywhere else.
So today we're going to be joined by designer Erica Hayes-Bouyouris, who's awesome, who's also in Toronto.
And whose last name I learned how to pronounce tonight. So I was like, booyah.
By what I just said or what?
No, me. Said?
Okay.
Because I watched Rodney's Watch a Played video for Bosk, and then I watched you talking now because I'm on the show with you.
Well, because I don't actually know. That's how I assume it's pronounced.
Well, we'll find out if we're wrong. It's going to be good. You'll find out right now, world.
So she's going to join us in a few minutes. And we're just going to chat. We're just going to chat a little bit before we bring her. Oh, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry. All right, cool. So, Kathleen, you've been super busy lately.
I have been.
Traveling around, doing a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Well, let's see. At Geekway to the West, took some prototypes, showed them around just to one designer in particular, just because I wanted to get some initial feedback and more not even just feedback, but also who would be a good fit for it. And it was Jonathan Gilmore, Panasaurus. But after we talked about my games, we played one that he's working on with Pam Walls. So that's really cool. We've talked about it, and I actually got to play test, and it was kind of cool because I could totally see where it was your stamp on to make the sword fighting aspect of this game about the Three Musketeers come to life. I was like, this is so cool. It was really nice. I was so happy to be able to play test it and send you a boatload of feedback afterwards. Hopefully it was helpful. But yeah, that was so fun. And
that was
really
our very first play test at a convention.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I love is, I'm always nervous to show stuff, you're not supposed, just whatever, show it, whatever. But it was really rough. And not in a bad way, but it was an initial prototype. So at one point I was like, what does this space do? And Jonathan's like, oh, okay. What is this space going to do? I don't know. But we thought it should be there. I'm like, that's awesome. I totally get that, So it was very cool. It was very sandboxy.
Yeah, I know. He kept saying that. And I was like, yeah, totally sandboxy for sure. After the call, Google sandbox. Sandbox. What?
That's so funny. What? And then I went to lowering and look at that. There's a dragon on the screen, but it's from the UK Games Expo. Ooh. So, although it looks like UK Games Sexpo.
That's just down the hall.
Sexpo. Let's go to Sexpo. So yeah, no, that was super fun. I love game conventions. I love going to game conventions. And so going to the UK Games Expo was really fun. It's a 3-day show and doesn't matter. Still feels like a 4 or 5 day show. When you're at a con, you're at a con. You know what I mean? And the last day is always kind of brutal. But it was really fun. There was a good number of designers that I knew from over this side of the ocean who went over, and we just had a ton of fun hanging out, playing games. Actually got to play quite a few games, especially at night because I've never been to Essen, but things I've heard that it pretty much closes up. And so at night you've got to, go to your hotel to play games. And that's basically what happened. And so, yeah, it was a ton of fun. So if you're ever hey, I should go to a game convention in Europe, but I can't go to Essen because I'm a teacher and my school year doesn't allow it. Yeah, if you're that type of person, like me, UK Games Expo was a ton of fun. you see lots of they're very, very inexpensive for
Mm-hmm.
people who want to show there. And I think that's really cool because you get a lot of smaller like kind of like startup companies there showing off their games. And that's really neat because they're not priced out like the more expensive cons. So UK Games Expo was certainly fun. I spent a few days hanging around in London, eating, drinking, walking, looking at everything. It was great.
So that's good. You still had time to check things out. You weren't just in the con the whole time.
Oh yeah. And now I'm at this is my last. I mean, my summer is like insane. I shouldn't say insane. My summer is very busy. I am now at the University of Missouri, where I.
Oh, did she?
But it means I'll miss Origins. Wah, wah. But I'm super excited to work with high school kids and to see how they process and approach games different than my middle school kids who come up with really cool ideas, but they don't necessarily always think them through at first. So I'm excited to see what more sophisticated thinkers do. What about you?
Very, very cool stuff. Me, well, first of all, the Toronto Raptors are in the NBA Finals for the first time ever. And that is probably, I think, mostly because of this little guy right here.
Where did you get that little angel with that halo on his head? Who would send you such a thoughtful gift?
Toronto, it's all because of this Vince Carter, who looks, I'm sorry, but doesn't look very much like Vince Carter. But still, this Vince Carter Christmas ornament, I think, that Kathleen gave to me because
I think it's a necklace. It's a pendant.
Oh my God! I'm gonna make this a necklace,
especially if they win.
If they win, I'll wear this for a year as a necklace. I'm saying that right now. When they win, only 2 games away.
Yeah, that's how the St. Louis Blues are for hockey, as you like to say it.
Hockey, yes.
Hockey. That's how Canadians say hockey.
Hockey. But yes, I got this from Kathleen because Board Game Broads, every year we do a gift swap. And Kathleen got my name, and she sent me this lovely Vince Carter figurine, which has been sitting next to me at every game, and that is one of the main reasons that they're in the championship right now. So that's number 1 on my list. Moving on. So one of my party games, Act Fast. A month ago, I went to a local publisher. Well, they have a local office, but they're a Canadian publisher. And this publisher really liked Act Fast, and he said on the spot, I want this game. Done. We're making this. It's going out in 2020. Gonna do this, gonna do that. I'm like, awesome. And then a week goes by. Don't hear anything. Another week goes by. I'm like, oh, hey, just checking in, I was like, oh, I'll get you the contract this week, So just dealing with that lovely publisher dance that always happens in between the verbal and then the actual signing of the thing. So no contract yet, but he really liked it, so we'll see. The other game I'm waiting on too is called Artsy Fartsy. It's and that game took the longest to figure out a good name for.
Like when I think of how Artsy Fartsy would be played, it's not appropriate and it's pretty messy.
Yeah.
Does involve canvases though. So
yeah. But this game, usually my games doesn't take long for me to think of a good name for them. This one took forever. And I kept describing the game as, it's this artsy fartsy kind of game. And that's how I described it. And I didn't even think about that being the name. It was right in front of me the whole time. But so another publisher has been looking at that one since early March. And was it June? It's June now,
they're really looking at it.
Well, I don't know if they're super looking at it and they're like, oh, okay, we might actually run with it, or it's just been shelved and they haven't updated me. I don't know. So I've just been sending,
What do you think is the longest amount of time? Interrupted.
Okay.
What's the longest amount of time you think you should let a publisher have one of your games before you ask for it back?
Before you ask for it, like ask for the prototype back?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would even bother. I mean, I guess it takes a lot of time to make. If they're not doing anything with it, you might ask for it back. Yeah, I would say.
Or at least ask for like a definitive answer. Or are you just okay to like let it hang and see what happens?
Well, I would like to have a timeline, and I do have a timeline on this one. He said that it goes through different stages of playtesting. So if it makes if it makes it through the first round, goes to the second round, makes it through the second round, goes to the third. If it makes it to the third in June, it would be published. So that's why I don't know what's going on. So he said that if it goes through to the third round in June, you would know in June. So I don't know. But yeah, so if I don't hear anything by the end of June, I'll be like, okay, what's the deal? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to have a timeline. And if they're just straight up not doing anything and they're not giving an answer, then yeah, maybe like, I don't know, 6 months. Might be like, all right, can I get that back, please?
Yeah. And of course, though, if it's a company that, like, you know, that's obviously not hard fast. I just thought that might be kind of interesting for people to think about.
Yeah, I think it depends, obviously, on the situation.
Yeah. That's one thing that I'm excited about with this like summer program is there's a bunch of kids I know they're like super into games for my classes. And so I want to get so much playtesting done.
Yeah.
Steal all of their ideas.
Oh, nice. No, you've got like an audience that has to stay with you for hours every day. That's the ideal. I'm
right.
Excited to see your progress.
Well, and I bought when I was at UK Games Expo, I took a carry-on and like a somewhat large like crossbody tote, and I bought 17 games, and I got them all to fit in my carry-on because they're all micro games like Oink games or Helvetic, I guess is how you pronounce it. They're games, and some of them I was sort of surprised by that they like what the game actually was versus what I thought it was going to be. But there's some that I think will be fun to like give to students, say, I think the scoring in this game is totally jacked up, and how would you fix it? What's a better way to match what you want players to do and what you want to reward? So, so they're good for that. But there's some really, super cute ones. Oh my gosh. So adorable.
If
there's
you
one
ever
called Hippo.
Oh, that's cool. If you have a micro game, or if anyone has a micro game that they're working on, or like a travel friendly game, Foxbind is a publisher in Canada, and they're looking for those games right now.
Oh, that's good to know.
FYI. And then the last game that I'm working on is the Musketeers game that you played at Geekway. So we got after you played it with the publishers at Geekway, they gave us a bunch of feedback in an email, and we got your feedback too, which is great. So now we need to make changes.
I gave excellent feedback.
Pardon? Oh yes, excellent. It was very excellent. It was very just excellent. Like my phone was like buzzing for 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm just gonna let it ride, and I'll check back in half an hour.
That's so funny. But I totally dug it. So
no, I that's really cool because I've been working on it and researching it forever, and now actually getting playtesting and is good.
Yeah. That's the thing that Jonathan was saying, how he would name characters things like Sue, and you would name them with like actual people alive or actual characters from the thing. So you can totally tell.
I'm super into this world now. I've watched like every Musketeers movie, TV show, read the books. Like, it's a cool world to explore in the sandbox.
And Sue, she's quite the hero too.
Sue's pretty cool. Okay, so we're going over a little time here. We need to. I'm just like, we need to bring in our guest and chat with her. Very excited. So we are going to be bringing in Erica. And 3, 2, 1. Yay!
Hi.
I love the band. Hi, everybody.
How are you?
Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Erica. I'm super excited.
Thanks for asking me on.
For people who might not know who you are, but they should, can you just give us a quick intro about who you are and all the games that you've worked on and your role in the industry?
Okay, so you did pronounce my name right. It is Erica Hayes-Bouyouris. And Rodney actually messaged me to be like, how do you pronounce your name? I don't want to mess it up.
Excellent.
So I always put is for people.
It's just how it's spelled.
It's how it's spelled. But they're very afraid to attempt it. So you attempted it and you did it right.
Excellent.
Good.
Booyah. I like that too. Anyway, so I started, basically I was a few years back now, I was kind of decided I want to start making games. I thought it was a really fun creative outlet. It's something that I guess I dabbled in my, so I'm an elementary school teacher during the day. And it's something I guess I always sort of did without really thinking about it. But I was like, no, like, especially when it's the new wave, I would say kind of like the Dead of Winters started coming out, like that wave. I was like, oh, I guess it's not just all these classic games or these German games. I'm like, I can make a game. Like that was sort of the trigger moment of like, oh, people do this. And so I was like, I want to make a game. And so I decided to like just start making games. And I started popping out a whole bunch and just, they stop, they push them out. Well, it's like, I don't care. If it dies, it dies. I'm on to the next one. Like I have no attachment issues. So I just started speeding through them as fast as, until things I was like, no, I like the concept. I like the premise. I'll keep working on this thing, or like it hits the right notes kind of thing. And so, but a big thing for me was getting, kind of becoming friends with a bunch of the designers in Toronto. Toronto is a really strong design community that is incredibly educational. Everyone is super open. Everyone's willing to play each other's games. It is probably one of the most nurturing environments you can be in, as much as it's also trial by fire at the exact same time. So you kind of get someone, they're there to rip you down, but then immediately support you on how to fix it right afterwards. If that makes the most sense.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Right,
well,
and I think that's where we are.
Yeah, well, somebody was talking about that because like I live in St. Louis and there's a lot of game designers and game companies here. And they're like, yeah, St. Louis is kind of a mecca. I said, yeah, it's like South Toronto.
Yeah, but we have nowhere to go. We have to come to you.
That's all right. You're welcome anytime. I've got an extra bedroom. But yeah, no, I love that. Like I said, like if I was to move anywhere else to design games, it'd be to Toronto because it's just such a great community there for sure.
It really is. And the thing is, we are mostly designers because there's not that many Canadian publishers and there's not that many Canadian cons. There's a few, but you know, where they're hosted depends. Like Vancouver is ridiculously far away from Toronto. It's like going to Florida for us. You know what I mean? Like it's the equivalent distance. So it's hard to get to them when there's only a few in a year. So we tend to travel south of the border and go hit up all the American cons. And that's why you see Canadians travel in groups, because that's where we meet each other at the cons.
Well, but speaking of, guess who's going to be a special guest this year at Fan Expo in Toronto?
Are you coming?
I am.
Yay!
Yeah, that was nice for you guys. Yay. So I'm coming to Toronto.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm always at Fan Expo, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I think all three of us will be special guests. Hey.
But yeah, that Toronto community totally. Yeah, and you get to meet a ton of people here too. You'll love the people here. They're awesome. Anyway, so that kind of led into meeting a lot of people, getting a much better inside knowledge of what the industry was. I will say, it's kind of, I guess the best way to putting this is I didn't realize I was jumping like immediately into the deep end. I thought this is just the way things were. Like absolutely, like that was my reality. Like my paradigm was like, oh, this is just what people do. Okay, you just run through cons, have 20 games you're pitching like every hour. I'm like, that's normal, right? No, no, that's just how I started. I mean, it is what it is now, but it was immediately like, and go.
Okay, so how are you not exhausted? I mean,
I'm perpetually exhausted.
I mean, you teach like fourth graders. I mean, they're fun, but they are so, elementary is tough. Like I would not want to teach elementary school and I teach middle school, you know? And so like, how in the world do you do that all day and then go home like, I'm going to go make 3 games now.
Okay. It's dedicated time. Like I will say, so Daryl Andrews and I are like, we do a lot of co-designing together, and we will specifically actually say, this is a design weekend. We'll start from Friday to Sunday. We'll maybe have already pre-generated ideas, maybe just concepts, whatever it is. We'll start talking about on Friday, kind of grind out like a couple things we actually want to attempt. And then that's what we do that weekend. And so that's how games that are not like, I'm not asked to do something. That's where those come from is, you know, every time you get an idea, just write it down kind of thing. But then we'll say, hey, what do you think of this idea? And be like, yeah, I'd continue with that, or nah, whatever. And so, you know, it's finding the right person for ideas too. But then there's been a bit of a switch recently where people are like, and make this. And you're like, okay, that's a cool exercise too. but it's very different.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different because now you have to do it. And I mean that in both a good way and it's work, right? It's not the same thing as like, I'm going to make a game. This is fun.
Right.
It is still fun, but you're obligated. And that's
Yeah.
a different intent.
Yeah.
So I will say there's a shift there.
So these are publishers coming to you saying, we want this game made. Can you make it?
Yeah. So sometimes, I mean, like when people, especially if they're looking to almost contract you, what they'll end up doing is either already have a game in mind where they may be like even vetting you behind the scenes where they'll like ask people or like even find out sometimes if you're a fan of something. Like I got approached because someone actually knew I was a fan of something. I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, all right, cool. But they might do that. Or but some other publishers, what they'll do is like Lucky Duck is, for example, what they tend to like to do is be like, okay, make something. Or pick a game and make it for us and we'll see what you think and if we like you. It's almost like they're auditioning you. There are people who do that. I haven't done that, but I've been told or been almost like asked. I was like, I'm okay. This is not my full-time job. I'm like, I have enough work.
That'd be a lot of work just for let's see where it goes kind of thing.
There are people who ask that. I will not say that I'm one of those people who have the time or energy to do said things. So
yeah. I'd be like, well, I have these already made things. What do you think about those?
Yeah. And you know what? That's where IPs can go to sometimes is like anyone who has IPs in their pocket when they're looking at games, sometimes they're like, oh, what could I label this with? It seems to be a growing trend. I both like it. And I'm like, I was thinking back to my childhood thinking too, it's like, how long do these games last? Like, are they something we cherish and hang on to? Or is it kind of like that random TV show game that came out?
Yeah. Because you have, I don't know if you can talk about this too much, but you have worked with some games that have IP. So how was that approach different than other games?
So it's like someone says, here's the world and it must work within it. And then the other thing is it depends on the fandoms. Like the fandoms are hardcore for something, you better get it right. Yeah. So you're kind of like what you're talking about with the Three Musketeers. Like you have to fully immerse yourself. So I'll be honest, I turn stuff down because I'm not a fan. I don't want to presume to be one. I wouldn't want to do any injustice to the fandom of something because it's like, that would make me mad. So I'm like, no, I don't know this enough to feel like I'd be like, this is not me. You know what I mean? Like ask someone who's a fan. That's just how I feel personally. But
yeah, and I'm also finding too that finding that sort of a struggle between wanting to be very specific and literal with the story and the characters and that, and then the other sort of approach of doing a twist on it.
Or is it flavor versus like submersive?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and how much you can push the boundaries and stretch it to where,
so where it's not so obvious.
Well, I guess it's sometimes, okay, so like I've got a few scenarios that I can think of. I really wish I could just say titles, but it's so stupid that I can't.
I know.
Some of them where it's like, no, like this is the world, you stick to it. There's no alterations. You kind of already have that framework and you must fit the box.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like find something fun, but it must relay all this information. And that's why I say be a fan, because I feel like you already inherently know what information to relay. That makes sense.
Right.
And then I don't know. I forget where I was going for a second because my brain does that sometimes.
Sometimes though, having that IP, because like it's almost like design is like a blank sheet of paper, and where do I want to go and what do I want to do? I mean, I would think working with an IP would also make it really not easier, but more easy. Is it easier to find your sort of focus about what the game is about when you're working with an IP?
I think so. Yeah, I was going to say the other side of it is when the world's somewhat open and the creator's like, just kind of make sure it's the flavored the right way. Like that's out there too, especially like I've got a few things I'm doing with comics and it's either been like, nope, this is the letter, or like, whatever.
Yeah.
Totally different. What's cool about IP is, especially if you love the world, is now you get to play in that world. And like for me, because I love themes in games. Like I want to be like in that thing when it's happening, unless it's like, I don't know, a casual card game. If you're busting something out in a big cardboard box, I want to be like in it. And so theme is really important to me. And I think IPs lend that. Like IPs are theme. They are a world. Yes. Someone's already built it. You don't have to come up with it yourself. You don't even have to necessarily come up with mechanics of how the world works. It's already there. And then it's translating like, how would you, so if a character does X, Y, and Z, what mechanic can I allow them to actually do X, Y, and Z? And that's kind of what the game falls out from, for the most part. But sometimes you can be like, oh, there's a lot of this theme in this whatever the work is. It's going to be based on that theme. And then so it's more like a flavor thing, right? Like the theme is there. So if it's like very combative, it's like, well, obviously this is a combat game. So that's already, the theme of it is what kind of game I'm going to make. And then the flavor comes from like, okay, but what would this person do? What would this person do? Or this person do? And you feel like if you're a fan, that power, action, whatever it is the person's doing, that person would do it. And that's why, again, I'm like, be a fan, like know your details for that stuff, because otherwise it's hard. I don't know why you do it to yourself.
So I have a question, and Pam and I both came up with questions ahead of time, so of course I'm just ignoring them and just going with other stuff. Because you've done so many games, I assume that you feel like you've gotten better at game design. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, you definitely grow.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So what have been the areas of growth that you've been sort of most surprised by as a result of all this volume that you've been kicking out like badass lady gamer designer?
I'll say the funny thing is I still have this perpetual state in my head where I'm like, I don't really know that much. And because you always feel like, I'm sorry, there's so much to learn in so many ways. Game theory, industry structures, publishing, like there's just so much shit to learn that it kind of gets to the point where it's like, you don't ever feel like you still have so much left to go that you never feel like an expert in anything. And so you turn around and you start talking to people, you're like, but I know that answer. And I know that, wait a minute, I know at least enough to help you, even if I don't feel like I know what I'm doing.
Right.
So yeah,
like, from an actual like game design standpoint, is there something where like coming up with ideas is easier, that you can sort of like mentally play test things better?
You know what I would say? Yes, there's that. It's kind of like you get to the point where it's habitual, where it's like, or you experiential, I should say. I've been through this enough times to know that this will or will not work. Right. And so playing games is important, but I really wish I could do it more. And I can't. I teach, I make games. I have 2 children. I'm just like, friends, invite me out when you have a games night. And I promise I'll try to show up when I can. Like, thank God for Sean and Nicole, so I can play new stuff. But yeah. Anyway, those are the guys over at Daily Worker Placement. I'm like, whenever they have like to try new stuff, I'm like, just invite me over when you need to play test things.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing, because like the last night of a con is like one of the best nights for gaming, because for people who've worked in booths and for their game companies, like they're done working and they're just like purely selfish. We're no longer focused on teaching others our games, and so I bought all of those little Oink and Helvetic games, and we just like cracked into them, and it's like put one on the table and played it, learned it. Okay, cracked it. And out of like the 7, the games I bought, I think I played like 12 of them, which is pretty great, for me, especially because buying games blind.
Or we just end up playing like Can't Stop at like 12 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, no, my favorite, though, was one time after Gen Con, I ended up playing with my friend Morgan, Dan, and Coleman. We ended up playing No Thanks for 2.5 hours.
Oh, I miss Morgan. I haven't seen him for so long.
I know. Morgan Dontonville from Catan Studio, who's super great.
All right, you freaking con insiders.
Okay, I was going to say, so the other things that grow, you start to click new ideas faster together, because again, it's an experiential thing. It's like you've seen how a lot of games have done it, or how you would do it differently. I tend to think about take an idea and go, just like, how would I do it? I don't know if it's always right or wrong. It's probably different. Well, sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes I don't know.
Well, okay. Go ahead. And then I've got another question.
Well, so yeah, I think, and then one of the main things I've noticed is like, I've changed my habits. So I literally work on something every single day. It became like, when you're just designing for the fun of it, you can have a day where you're like, I don't care, right? Like I can do it tomorrow. And then a lot of times, unfortunately, it can become like tomorrow. And it starts to add up. It's like people are like, I'm going to start exercising, right? Right. But it's sort of that idea where it's like, it could always be tomorrow. It's gotten to the point now, and because I've been like this for a while, I literally do it every day. It's like I'm working on something every day. It does, like, am I correcting rules? Am I talking about production stuff? Am I, so I'll also say some publishers involve you in everything and some publishers involve you in nothing. And that's a whole other experience into itself. And how much you have to take on for that. So there's a lot of that, or it's like, you know, this game's got to get started. This game's got to get finished. It becomes this, it really is another job. And so that's changed things a lot because it changes. I mean, a big thing also being on Meeple Syrup now for almost 2 years, I think. Oh my God. Something close to that. Oh, you motion sensor in your room. Okay.
Yeah. I'm in a college dorm study room right now. So
I was saying, being on Meeple Syrup, I've also been talking about game design and talking to game design people for like, easily almost 2 years now, right? And then cons for about 3 years now. So it's amazing when you talk to enough people, listen to enough things, like you just learn so much so quickly. That
was actually one of my questions was, so you're a host on the Meeple Syrup Show, and anyone who doesn't know about the show, you need to watch it. It's every week. They stream live on Facebook. And then they also have this awesome Facebook group called the Meeple Syrup Shop Talk. And that's where a ton of designers ask questions, and you can ask a question, you can get hundreds of responses. It's awesome. If you need someone to work through a problem or if you have a question. So I was actually going to ask you, Erica, because you have chatted with so many different designers and so many different people in the industry, was there one thing that you learned from a guest that really struck you, or one or two things that you learned from all these great people you talked to?
I think honestly, if you want it enough and you're willing to actually listen, I think some people think they want it, but they're holding on so tight to something that they're not really listening to what people are telling them. It's like, I'm not saying take everyone's advice, but if you're really there to like be a sponge and absorb everything and you're just open and honest about it, I think you will get where you want to be. Right. I think one of the number one things having met a ton of people is just be nice. If you're nice, people honestly want to see you. They want to help you. They want to talk to you. Like, obviously, you know, prove yourself talent wise too, but no one wants to hang out with jerks. So if you're that friendly person, go. Sorry.
So at the St. Louis meetup, I used to go to quite frequently, and then people would come by with games like, "Oh yeah, I made a game." You'd be like, "Okay," and I'd play it and whatever. And then one time, these two guys came by with a game they made about winemaking, and I was like, "Who are these guys? Never seen them before. They've never come." You know, and I was like, whatever. Sure, whatever. You know, I didn't play test it because I was like, "Oh, who are they?" And then of course it's Jamie and Stegmeyer and Alan Stone, and that was viticulture and all of that other stuff. And I mean, I wasn't rude or anything, but in my head I was like, and it was just like it was more like I hadn't seen them before, and then to come and bring a game to want to play test, But, it was a good reminder to me to not prejudge anybody's desires, anybody's interests. I hate gatekeepers. I hate anybody who tries to get in the way of other people and what they want to do and what games they want to make. And so, that was a really good lesson in terms of being nice and being open. And luckily, Jamie and I are friends, so I guess he hasn't held it against me. But still, you don't know, so. Yeah, being nice is huge. And if
I know it sounds silly, but it's probably the best advice in gaming is just be a nice person, and things will go great.
Yeah, it's a business of relationships. I mean, there are people where we've talked about, I would like to work with you on a project. I think that would be fun. And it's just a question of coming up with the right project to make that happen, because if you want to design games, be active in the game design community, make friends, be nice. You're totally right.
Yeah, I love this totally Canadian answer.
Well, I'll just say, because having seen enough people, it's like,
how is this Canadian to be nice? It's more Canadian to point out how nice you're being. Oh, I'm so sorry. We apologize all the time because we're so humble.
Look how nice we are. See how nice we are?
We so accept nice. The blame.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. The War of 1812. You burned down the White House. Bring that up.
And
too.
we're about to win
Anyway.
the NBA championship.
What I was gonna say. Well, at least you know that's why the White House is white. Most people don't get that. Anyway,
Thanks. You can have it back right now. Just kidding.
It's just like it's one of those weird things. They're like, no, it's like purity. It's like no, it's like no, they set it on fire. It was whitewash. Anyway, look, bad history stories. Anyway,
only Canadians are nice. That's the takeaway.
We're so nice.
What I was gonna say is publishers are people too, and I think a lot of times it's like there's too much of this business. And I don't mean like you have to be overly friendly or anything like that too, but it's like publishers are people. They have good and bad days. You will honestly, if you're around cons enough, meet them outside of con environments. And like, if you just treat them like people, they're not someone you're always pitching to. Like I've literally seen people and you know that it's just like the end of the day, they're dead tired. They just want to like stop or have a drink or whatever it is. And someone will be like, want to see a sell sheet? And you're like, no.
Right.
Because they're just people. And I think if you just treat everybody that way in the industry, you'll already be doing better. Do you know what I mean? And I think maybe be less intimidated, because a lot of times you're like,
right,
you want to do this, you want to get in, you want to be accepted. There's so much pressure you put on yourself. But if you just kind of remember that these are just like average people who just really like games and made it their jobs, then you're like, it kind of changes how you approach them and probably will turn out better.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I was actually going to ask you too, because you go to a lot of cons, but you know, it wasn't that long ago that you were
accepting of what somebody else says and supportive. Look at me. Whoa. Boy, Little Miss Bitter Pants, I guess, tonight. So okay, next question.
Oh my God.
I don't know what's happening.
I don't know either. I have no idea what's going on. But it wasn't that long ago that you went to your very first con and you were pitching to publishers for the first time. And now you go to these things and you meet with a ton of publishers. So what what convention would you recommend to designers who haven't really gone to many that would be the most beneficial as a designer looking to pitch their games?
Probably Origins. Okay. I would say. I mean, look, it depends on, I guess, what you're bringing to the table. If you've got something that is maybe more mass or even it not necessarily like as hobby specific, then there only are kind of certain cons you can go to anyway, because that's the only place you're going to have access to like the Mattels, the Hasbros, the Spin Masters, those things. So then you're going to like New York Toy Fair, you're going to Gen Con, but those are monstrous cons. So you have to decide, like, is that what you want to do? Because that is a totally different playing field, is the best way to put it, especially New York Toy Fair. And what they expect. It's amazing when you watch, especially because that's mostly a toy market, when you watch toy designers walk around and you're like, especially if you're hobby and we're like sleeving our little things over here and they're like paid to make a robot and you're like, okay. And there really is that disparity that kind of is between that. So it depends on what kind of game you're approaching with. But if it's like you're maybe this is new, can be overwhelming, but you still want to have access to people. You still actually want to have a realistic chance of like meeting a decent amount of people and really just walking up to booth and saying, hi, you know, can I pitch you a game? Can I take your information for later? Like whatever it is. Origins tends to be a really good one because people aren't as ramped yet. And it really is when publishers try to jump on early stuff. Yes. So if they feel like they haven't seen something that weekend, publishers, like they'll tell you at the end of the day, it's like, oh, my day, like I saw nothing but crap. Or like, I saw these amazing things. Mm-hmm. If they've had that, especially if they have the couple crap days, if you walk up and you're like, would you mind if I pitched you something? And they have a slot available, they're probably going to say yes. And especially if you have anything that even remotely interests them, have a person that will let you come back and pitch again.
Yes.
Right. And so that's a huge part of it, is don't be afraid to walk up. You may not get the pitch right away. Remember, publishers can get cranky as cons get towards the end. And they may not even put you in the best slot. It's just something you had available, but just make that contact, right? And just do a bit of research first. Does your game suit them in the first place? Don't approach somebody with the wrong type of game. Like if you do not have a game for that publisher, approach them, get the information, but just say, for the next con. Don't say for now, because
Yeah.
you're wasting their time.
Indie Boards and Cards does not want your war game. No matter how good your war game is, Indie Boards and Cards does not want your war game.
No.
And when you pitch to a company where it's the wrong fit, then it doesn't necessarily help you in the long run for future pitches because it looks like you don't know who you're talking to. It's like selling a romance, bodice ripper novel to Marvel.
So like sci-fi, or something like that. Exactly. No, you know your audience and know if that publisher would go into that game type or have as many types as you can on you. There are suitcasers, absolutely. Like Daryl is 100% a suitcaser. I've now become that too, unfortunately. But it's like, what kind of, like we always actually pre-strategize. We always have a spreadsheet. What game is it? Who are we pitching it to based on who is likely to have a game like that? Like we already plan all that out before we go to a meeting that it's like this, and this game need to be in the suitcase today. Right. So like that's all coordinated. And I think that's really important. And something you learn over time too. That's another steep curve. It's really intimidating at first to be like, what does this publisher want? So one of the number one questions I always ask when we're done a pitch is, what kind of games are you looking for next? Because they've already talked about like that next year's numbers, next 2 years, next 3 years. What division are we opening? What division are we starting? Are we starting an imprint? Do we have not enough of this game? Whatever it is, they've done that research. They know that information. And they're likely to say, oh, actually, we're going to be looking for family games. We're going to be looking for card games. Make a note of that. Because then you know what to show them for next time. Right?
What's your favorite game you've done? I know, like when gamers ask about their favorite game, like it always just drives us all crazy. But like when you think about or what are some aspects of certain games that you've designed that you're really proud of? Oh, that's a nicer way to say it.
That's an interesting one because I'm in my head, as I said, like I'm always kind of like on to the next one. Like I like them, I like all of them. I think they're fun. But there's a part of me that's like, if you ask me the nitty gritty rules on a game I worked on like a year ago, you better give me that rule book or find mine.
Yeah. You've made room for the new game.
It's like, or iterations get mixed up in here. Like, I manage ADD pretty well, but like, that's one of the compartmentalizing problems for me is that the ideas will constantly keep rolling, but it doesn't mean I retain everything. And so that's my own sort of little struggle with things is that like, there's so much information coming at me all the time that I'm like, sorry, I forgot the little detail. It was never intentional. It was never this, never that. It's just like, it's just too much going on.
Yeah. But that's also obviously one of your strengths then, the ability to just have this like, raging pipeline of ideas coming down. That's awesome.
Oh, I guess I can definitely push things away and work on to the next thing. So yeah.
Do you change? Do you find sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm trying to think. So I think that what I tend to really like about a game is then did it deliver on that experience? Like, I'm not going to say every game I make, everyone's going to love because it's like, if you didn't like what you're doing, then you're not going to like the game. Right. Cause I am very thematic. So for example, like with Roar, people who love that, like somewhat combative area control, they think it's a great game. Other people are like, I don't want my lions to fight each other. And you're like, this is not the game for you. Like, it's not.
I just want them to cuddle and be cute.
I mean, they don't kill each other. They push each other out of the way. But
you could call it fighty bitey lions. That would
fighty bitey biggie kitties. Like it'd be the best game ever. But yeah, so like I think Bosk is beautiful and I really appreciate it. Because Bosk was an interesting one. When Daryl and I first came up with Bosk, we're like, okay, we like the idea of this separate, like it's almost two games together, but they perfectly stream into each other. The first half of the game is a setup for the second half of the game. You can score in the first half, but it doesn't mean necessarily it's an advantage in the second half. It's more about placement. And so that'll affect what happens in the second half of the game. When we started pitching that game, we had the wildest feedback on it because we'd pitch a publisher and they're like, I feel like the first half, not the second half. I like the second half, not the first half. It'd be like, I don't know what to do with all this. Right. And then until it's finding the right publisher to say, no, I like both of them. It's like they do work together. We're like, they do, but you have to see it. And so I think that one is very much a lesson game where it's like, you do have to wait for the right publisher. I'm so happy with the buzz around it right now. Like I really hope. I think it was sold out at the UK Games Expo. Hopefully it's got enough copies at Origin. But again, like I mean, it'd be amazing to say like it's sold out. I know they're not going to intentionally do it. I know people always worry about that stuff. They will ship as many as they can. I know they will.
Right.
But yeah, so that's fun.
For people who might not know, Bosk is this really beautiful game that Erica and her co-designer Daryl designed. And it's all about planting trees, and then the wind blows and it blows all their leaves off in different directions. And it's really cool how you have the different leaves blowing all around in different directions, trying to go in the different types of terrain.
Mm-hmm. And that's your area control. And so you can overlap people. So it allows for that, what I like to call that like passive aggressiveness. People like to be mean in games without having to actually take the blame. I've noticed that. I call it now the Azul complex. It's like people who like, I know you're doing this on purpose, but you like to pretend you're not. So I get it. I get why you want to do it.
It's just where the wind blows.
Yeah. And so it's like you can spend.
It's Pocahontas effect. I can't help it. It's Pocahontas.
I can't help it. The wind is blowing that way. So it's got, I think it's just enough of that. And then obviously your tree placement affects everything. Mm-hmm. And so, but actually the person who loses the first round or is in last place in the first round actually gets to dictate the wind direction essentially for the rest of the game because they set north. So once that happens, you going in this swirl from there. So it's like, that's their somewhat advantage in the second round is they can actually think about what trees they got where. If they want to math it out really quickly, they'd be like, oh, this would be advantageous if it was this direction. So you can always have a different game.
So you say you love theme, and so that's a tree game. You must really love trees because you have another tree game.
It wasn't originally a tree game. Can I tell you? Kodama 3D was a decorating crab game.
Oh, did you have that at Prototio, the very first one?
That's what Kodama 3D is.
Wait, decorating crabs?
Okay, so decorator crabs, they have these big shells. Like hermit crabs are somewhat similar, but like these guys are more known for this. What they do is they'll actually take like little animals, little plants, little things, and they stick them on their shell and to make them pretty. But they walk around and it's like I think they do it to attract each other, but they'll become these little ecosystems. So what it was is the idea is you're these little baby crabs running around to collect different coral that your mama crab likes. Because she likes certain colors, and you're looking for branch combinations. It's like very much set collecting, but you're doing it dexterity wise because it branches off of the character.
Right.
And so it has all these different types of coral coming off its back, and it has a favorite color and things like that. It's kind of cutesier. It was a little more kiddie. And then we showed indie boards of cards, and we're like, it could just be trees. I mean, basically it's a stomp, and you're adding branches. So trees, Kodama. They're like, yes, it could be. And that's where Kodama 3D came from.
Oh, that's very cool. So they didn't approach you with the idea of wanting to do a different version of Kodama.
We pitched them a game.
Oh, that's cool.
Daniel Solis, because technically he is the originator of the world, gets final say. So that's one thing to know. If you are the designer of anything, you usually have somewhere in your contract that you get to have a say in what happens next. At least it's sort of like a right of first refusal. So if somebody in the company says, we want to make the sequel, they will approach you and either ask you to make it or double check with you that, can something go into your world? You might get a % of it, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
So he gave his blessing.
So yeah, and then I think he did the development to make sure that it fit Kodama. So basically what he ended up doing was instead of a favorite color, I think each of the Kodamas have their favorite object. So it's just slightly switched that way. It's still the color-based or more like token-based now. Like it's got little decorations on them. So you're matching the decorations instead of the coral colors, the coral types. Right. And so but you have to actually care about balance in this game because normally in Kodama, you're like, okay, my tree branch is like gigantic in this way. And that's okay. Right. In this one, that would fall over and you would lose points. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can still approach Disney to have a Moana themed crab game.
Funny enough, someone actually recommended that. I think it was when we pitched it to USAopoly at one point. We're like, I don't think it could happen. No.
Oh, I think it would. That would be amazing.
Yeah. On the plane home from UK Games Expo, because I've not seen Moana, and there have been people like a million saying, you need to see Moana, you need to see Moana. And I was like, fine, I'll see Moana. And then I watched Silence of the Lambs instead.
Yeah, similar movies. It's fine.
I don't know. Like I kept like scrunching up really close to the screen in case like anybody behind me saw anything gross. I'd feel bad about that. I don't know. I couldn't sleep. Back to your game.
Silence to the Lambs.
Well, it's like I had a tree in it, I think. It's the connection. No, I mean, I'm excited about Kodama 3D. I know it'll be relaunched because the whole, like, you know, Kickstarter.
I'm assuming it's the same thing as Colossal, but I was there when the Colossal Maple thing kind of like went down, and they had no idea what was happening. It's unfortunately Kickstarter doesn't communicate.
Yeah.
So which is interesting because even after the everything that happened with Maple and Colossal, which was just kind of like Kickstarter has rules that essentially you can't have multiple campaigns outstanding. I don't know how that would necessarily work with larger companies because they have imprints and things like that. So it's a little wishy-washy because they don't have it gone after everybody. But anyway, once they figured that out, it was kind of like, okay, they relaunched. It's fine. Like Papillon is up again. It's doing great. Right. And so that's been all positive, but it's kind of like we still, as far as I know, haven't actually heard back from them yet.
Yeah.
And
and what people need to understand too is they approve the campaigns before they launch.
That's what I was going to say. Actually, after the Colossal thing happened where Papillon got refunded, and like it was finished, funded, refunded. It's kind of like, oh wow, like
that was bananas.
Step, right? The campaign got pushed back. It was originally supposed to be the end of April. It got pushed back to mid-May, which means they already approved the pushback. So if they had any issues, then why did it launch?
Yeah.
Anyway, as I said, I haven't been communicated with. I know that I'm almost positive Indie would say something once they knew. I'm assuming it'll just be the same as them. It'll get resolved. They'll get to launch at whatever date that everything's
Well, good luck with the relaunch. It's going to do very well. It already funded double, I think, even with
I know, but when I saw that, I just was so disappointed for you. And I know, like, it'll be fine. I mean, because my game with Colossal got pushed back to January because of like all that.
It's domino, right? It's just a domino effect, right?
Yeah, and I think it'll be really interesting. Like, as far as will we see a different tier of Kickstarter? Will we see other crowdfunding source platforms like pop up? To try to take the place of Kickstarter because it's become so critical to the gaming industry. It'll be really interesting to see because it's obvious the way things have been going they're not going to work. So
there's a couple alternatives. The problem is the real way this is going to end up working out if we're all going to switch is you need a bunch of like the big guys. Like if kind of like, let's say like Simon, Stronghold, and like a few others got together and all mass exodus and they actually advertise the fact that they're moving platforms. Done. That platform's instantaneously like the next gaming platform. Right. And that's all it would take. And it is really that straightforward and it doesn't take that many people because there are not that many people that own those companies. But at the same time, what's the good alternative? Because really what we want is a pre-order system. And it's still a minimal funding, but essentially it's a pre-order system. And there's sort of rules on what pre-order means, but that's what we want. And I know there's a couple of alternatives, but not enough to even know what their names are. So,
this is the beast that we got to use for now.
Right.
I was going to say before we have to say goodbye to Erica she gave the keynote talk at Proto last year. So Proto is a tabletop convention I organize game design convention I organize in Toronto. I'll post the link in the comments to her talk because it's so great because Erica comes up with so many ideas and generates so many interesting games and things to explore. So it's really interesting to see her approach to creativity and generating ideas. So I'll post that link in the comments. Before we go, we do have a viewer question. Yay! From Brad Batchelor. He says, "Hi, Erica." Oh no, it's all good. We go over time all the time. He was saying wrap up. So Erica, as a designer who struggles with ADHD, I was curious if you could talk about it a bit more. Any tips for getting the most out of your design time and staying focused? Feel free to ignore this if you want to.
No, it is something like it was something I actively worked on for like at least a decade. I will be fully honest with that. I don't think it's a fast process, but I was like, my memory is garbage. I need to correct this. And it was a focus thing. And so what it became is a conscious effort of actually like paying attention to like, I have to actually stare at someone's face. So I'm sorry if I ever stare you down. It's to make sure that I don't look off in the corner. I'm like, oh, shiny. Like that's all it kind of takes. So I'm like, no. I am blinders now. Like it's like a training like thing where it's like, no, blinders. I must focus on this. And so a big thing with ADHD is habits. Habits are really, really important. That's how you remember where things are. That's how you remember like what to do. And so if you do, I like to, honestly, this is totally like a Stephen King credit, but what he says is like, if you want to do something, do it for at least 10 minutes every day. Like you have to do it every day. And I would say as someone who fights with attention, if it's something that you do every single day, you'll immediately start going into that mode anyway, right? You're correcting your behavior. And that big part of ADHD is honestly correcting your behavior. It's not an easy thing to do, but if you're conscious of it, you start to pay attention in different ways. You can start to more narrow your focus. If you're losing attention, it's actually okay as long as you're still within like the parameters. So if you set lists for yourself of things that you want to get done within a game, when your brain starts to wander, it might be like, I'm going to work on some art. I'm going to work on some rules. I'm going to work on like wander within the game, right? Like you can still do that. I'm like, I'm now visual. I'm now language. I'm now turn on some music, drown out your thoughts. Like whatever your triggers are, you start to learn them. So you're like, what will help me kind of get in that right space? And so like, I like noise. I like background sound. I'll have movies, TV, music going on in the background, especially if it's got the right, I would say like beat or feeling or whatever it is. Like if I want to be in like a video game mindset, like I literally listen to music that is like 8-bit soundtrack kind of thing. Like I want to be in a video game space. And that really helps with ADHD because it's like all your thoughts are now focused into that thematic tone.
Oh, interesting.
If that makes any sense. But yeah, so if you play like a hype up music, I will literally be hyped up. Like I don't know how else to put it. It's just how I am. So
that's really interesting. Yeah, it's good to know how you work and what works for you and create those environments to help you.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Erica. That was really great chatting with you.
Yeah, we're so glad you're on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. So we'll see you Gen Con.
Yes, I'm Dice Tower, Gen Con, Fan
I'll be
Expo.
Dice Tower too.
I love Dice Tower has become like I'm done school. It's both a con and a vacation. And then my family comes and joins me on the last day.
Oh, that's
nice.
Yeah, so but nice also to have like the days without the family, so then you can have your vacation.
I get both. It's like, I go and it's so casual there. And like, again, you get to know all the publishers. So you're sort of just chill with them. Like, it's really nice in a lot of ways.
Cool. Awesome. See you then. Yay.
Well, enjoy. Everyone check out Bosk, Kodama 3D, Meeple Syrup Show, and all the great things that Erica's working on.
Please.
All right. Later.
Bye, Erica.
Bye.
Okay. Cool.
She's a delight.
She's so awesome. You were on Meeple Syrup, right?
I was.
Yeah. So she's had both of us on her show, so that was great to have her on ours.
Yeah.
So we don't have too much time to share our pick. Do you have a game?
I do. But I left it back at the other. I'm staying at a sorority house on campus while I'm here at the University of Missouri. And so I'm in the dorm because it was a better place to record. So I forgot the game, but I mocked it up on a piece of paper. You can't tell it's actually
pretty.
So I was so fortunate to meet the lovely Bez Shaharari. I'm so sorry, Bez. Oh my God, I feel like such an idiot. So anyway, Bez has a great website, Stuff by Bez. She makes really fun games. Like one game, Yogi, was put out by Gigamic, and it's one where it's like put this card like behind your right ear, and then you do that. And so then eventually you're like trying to like draw cards and like hold them and do things and keep your finger up in the air and all that. And it was just such silly fun. And then there's an expansion or Yogi Guru, and has even more things and like choices for other players. It's such a fun, silly way to like, it's such a like a fun party game, and just like how you're going to do that. So Wibble Plus Plus is basically a deck of cards that has all types of different letters and numbers and letters and symbols on them and patterns and stuff. But the cool thing is, if you go to stuffbybez.com and you click on Wibble Plus Plus, you will see not only all the games that it's basically a card game system. So you'll see all the games that Bez has designed, but when you scroll down, you see so many other games designed by Bez and other people. And so, and Bez has contests. Shahriyari. Gosh, I'm so sorry, Bez. I'm so sorry. But anyway, so if you go to, so you can and there's going to be contests that coming up where I forget when the next one she said was happening, but anyway, it's one where you can design games using that card game system, and you might win a prize of some sort. So, and Bez had me at her house, and I played games with her and her housemates, and they could not have been lovelier, kinder, more welcoming. I had just, crossed over the little ocean and had never met, but since you're coming, come on over, and it was so fantastic. So Bez is a wonderful, happy, just joy, positive force in the gaming world. And so I feel very, very lucky and fortunate that I've gotten to meet her.
Yeah, that's great.
So
Wibble Plus Plus. In Board Game Bros, we have a monthly Skype chat where we all go on Skype and we have we chat about all the different projects we're working on. It's really great to connect with people. So I've chatted with Bez there, but it must be really nice to meet actually in person. Cool. Well,
and she has a Scottish accent, which I just love.
Yeah.
Because it's just, thank you. She sounds better than this. No, my brother-in-law is Scottish, and when I just need to stop. Who's your designer?
Okay, I have 3 clues. You have to guess it.
You don't know how tired I am. Okay, I got 3 clues. Here we go.
You'll get it. You'll get it. We'll see. Designed by Peggy Brown. You know Peggy.
Right. Who's the featured guest on our show?
It's a party game where you have one word and then all the answers have that one word. Any of the viewers can also guess too, if you know this one. Part of the title is the sound that bees make.
Buzz Aldrin?
You don't know Buzzword?
Buzzword! Oh my God!
Buzzword!
Okay, Buzzword. Is her name on that box?
No, her name is not on anything, which is why no one knows her, but she is the best. She won a Taggy Award, which is toy and game industry excellence, I think. Basically a lifetime achievement award, game design excellence. She's done
so
many.
A few hundred games, but because it's all been for
they're all mass market games, so you don't see. Oh, Jade got it. Nice. I know. I should wait. We should just wait in silence for the audience to guess because Jade just got Buzzword.
Well, I'm terrible at this game.
Sorry, you'll get the next one.
No, I won't. That's fine.
No, you're good. But Peggy Brown. Everyone should know that name. She got the Taggy Award 10 years ago. So and she was presented the Taggy Award by Leslie Scott, who did Jenga.
What? So put it up on the Hall of Fame.
Heck yeah. Well, I'll put it up in just 1 second because I have a card. So anyone who doesn't know what Buzzword is, you have a word. This word is bored. And I'll give you a couple of clues you have to guess.
Okay.
Handy at a seance. What's handy?
Ouija board?
Heck yeah, Ouija board.
Okay.
The coach takes notes on this.
Clipboard?
Clipboard. And the best new live video cast of 2019 featuring Kathleen and Pam.
Oh! Board Game Broadscast? I got an answer right. It's so obvious, but I've been traveling a lot. Doing the best I
No,
can.
we're gonna enter the weird half of the show. So if you're still here, things are gonna get weird.
This is the part where we feel like we've done our job. Now we're just. This is the.
We're not just talking the two of us. There's actually other people listening.
That's right. What's up?
But
homies?
I think we should do an after hours one though. After we have the guests, we say goodbye and then we have some wine or some beer and then we just.
Oh my God! Yes.
Just
yell at each other for the various crimes that our people have done against each other. What percentage of Canadians is it that live within 30 miles of the U.S. border? Isn't it 97%?
We pretty much all do. You look at a population of Baptists, we're all just hi.
But to be fair, you're ha ha ha. We sell Tylenol 3 at our pharmacies. We don't.
You don't sell Tylenol 3?
Not Tylenol 3.
Oh, so much.
That'll take away all your pain. What are you talking about?
Whoa.
I know. Right. It's crazy.
Well, before we dive off the deep end.
What is it about basketball that intrigues you? I'm just curious.
Well, I've played basketball since I was 6. My dad coached me and coached all my siblings. I think my mom was watching. Hi, Mom. And, we came from a basketball family. We watched basketball all the time. I played it pretty competitively up until high school. I still play it Monday nights with Big Blue. What's up? And so I just
curling too.
I curl as well. Yes. Every week I curl in the winters. I have the summer off right now. So yeah, I curl and I play basketball every week. And I just joined a dragon boat racing team. Yeah. And that's like a boat of 20 people all paddling together. I've gone to 2 practices and we have a race on Sunday. So we'll see how that goes.
I hope you don't fall off, but part of me also hopes you do, and it's caught on film.
Well, my sister's going to be there. I'll tell her to record it just in case I do something.
Just make sure you stand up in the middle because it makes the boat go really fast because it's got less contact with the water. You'll be helping out your team a lot if you stand up on the boat during the race.
Oh, okay.
It's a pro tip.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be your Girl Scout lifeguard.
I'm just scared I'm going to drop my paddle in the water and just be like, oh, God.
Do you know how I lost I didn't make it into the finals of the Missouri State Geography Bee when I was in 8th grade? Do you know?
Uh-oh. She froze again.
Like that. The answer is corn. But I had just seen the movie Beverly Hills Cop, and one of the cops, Judge Reinhold, says to the other cop, by the time you're 50, you have 10 pounds of undigested red meat in your bowels. And since I get my science facts from Beverly Hills Cop, I said red meat. Buzzer, lost. And then the best was I got off stage and went, corn poopy, corn poopy, corn poopy.
Oh my God, this is extra amazing because you're you're freezing a little bit, so all we're hearing is little bits. Good. We just heard little bits of that story.
The good news is
I heard Judge. I heard that guy's name, Corn and Corn Poopy.
That's really it.
That kind of sounds.
It's like a Mad Lib story, except you get all the good words and all the generic crap is just filtered out.
I hear spelling bee, corn poopy. Red meat in the bowel.
Geography.
Before we go, Florian wants to know: is there any updates on Friendship Elevator? And please tell everyone who doesn't know what Friendship Elevator is.
Friendship Elevator was born, as many good things do, late night at a con. Friendship Elevator is based on the premise that everyone obviously uses elevators as ways to make more friends. And so Friendship Elevator is when you ride up and down in elevators and you try to get people to do things and post them on social media. And so it's funny, actually, because my friend John Brieger is one that we came up with this, and we had so much fun. But weirdly, we didn't do it. And I'm actually kind of well, it's going to happen. Don't you worry. But we ended up just hanging out. And he and I went to London before, for a few days before UK Games Expo, and he like extended his trip for a few days after because he used to live there and wanted to hang out more. So next year we're going to communicate with each other, and then that way we can go and we can just friendship elevator the hell out of London, because I can only imagine how London people who love to be chatted up while waiting in lines at various places, I can only imagine how well friendship elevator will go with British people being harassed. The good news is, like, there's no elevator ride that's like more than 5 or 6 stories because everything's like pequeño over there. But other than that, don't you worry, Florian.
You need to go into a super tall skyscraper and just...
Oh, the Shard.
Yeah, there you go.
Yoga. You can do yoga. 2 people doing yoga on like the top floor of the Shard, whatever. Guess how much that costs. Guess how much?
$100. $300. $500.
I'm gesturing. I'm still gesturing up.
$1,000.
It's like $1,400. No joke, for 2 people to do yoga on like the top floor of the Shard.
Oh my God. My palms are getting sweaty just even thinking about that. Like just an open rooftop.
No, I think you're even in a room. You're not even on the ledge. I mean, that would be.
You see a tennis court on that building in Dubai, I think. There's a tennis court up on like the 50th floor. Sometimes
you just want to play tennis and you don't want to ride the elevator down because you don't have any friends in it to make it fun for you. So you just have to play tennis on the 50th floor in Dubai, as you do.
Well, if you do Friendship Elevator, please live stream that.
Oh my God.
I want to see that. Don't like think, oh, is this a bad idea? Just do it.
No, that's the best part about Friendship Elevator. It's just about friends. Well, actually, so I know John will be going to BGG Con, and this is where it came from. So I bet we'll get some buzz going. We'll get people ready for it. Because like Mayday Games would do like Assassination Con where you'd have like targets and go after the targets. And I don't know if that's going to happen this year. So if it doesn't happen, Friendship Elevator. Like I'll put up a prize.
You can do it at any hour, any time. You can fit that in.
Friendship Elevator. Just the world is just stranger's a friend you haven't met yet.
I guess that would be you who I haven't actually met yet.
Well, but we have Toronto.
Oh, Toronto. There you go. Oh, man.
I know.
We're gonna meet IRL at Fan Expo.
We are.
That's very exciting.
A live episode where we're like shoving each other back and forth.
Oh my God, we should get our own panel. I am gonna tell Sen to give us our own panel. Yes. And we can call up guests live. Okay, Sen, are you watching? I don't think he is.
Oh my God.
I'm pitching that.
No,
literally just ask for a panel question.
Call
panel
people on the phone and be like, Daryl, get out of bed. We got a question. It's real important right now.
Yeah. Right. Oh my God.
We will prank people.
Yes. That is going to happen. I'm so excited.
Yes. All right. Friendship Elevator and Enemy Phone Call. 2 new games coming out.
All right. Sorry, I am obviously very sick and need to go to bed. It was so great chatting with you. It's always too long in between these.
I know.
Our next guest is very exciting, though. July 11th. So that's the second Thursday of the month, not the first, because the first is some little American holiday called July 4th. So we pushed it to the following week. It's Elizabeth Hargrave, who designed Wingspan, which people are freaking out about. Nominated for the Spiel des Jahres.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Or the Kenner Spiel or whatever. Yeah.
It's not about me. I don't pay attention.
Yeah. Very exciting.
Just kidding. No, that's super awesome. Well deserved, too. Well deserved. So, that's all.
Yeah, she also did an AMA for Board Game Broads. We're going to put that up on the YouTube channel soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
And when Pam says we're going to put up on the YouTube channel, I just want to make sure everybody understands that she is the responsible go-getter, do things person, and I let her.
Well, that is actually an amazing Board Game Broad whose name is Nicole Fendi. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She is the AMA coordinator. And
she is. That's true.
Yeah, she's doing an awesome job coordinating them and then putting them on YouTube, which is awesome because I'm trying to delegate. All right.
Cool.
Well, go Raps. That's how I'm gonna end it.
Oh my God. Hey,
Next time I see you, we'll be NBA champions.
LGB, let's go Blues. St. Louis Blues are playing tonight. So there's a possibility they could also win a sports thing that is also very exciting. If you're into sports and hockey.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I hope both of our teams win. Next time we meet, we'll both be champions.
I hope mine wins just so everybody shuts up about it. But I know they're going to because I'm like a low-level sorceress and I've already predicted this, so it's cool.
Excellent. As have I.
All right, night. Bye.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll check you next time. Bye.